see. All right, I'm here with Jeff Cran. It's a little dark in the theater. This is my friend Nissan, and we're just going to give a brief miniature recap of Wonder Woman. So one thing that was interesting, there's spoilers in this, by the way. We're just doing this while the credits are running. One thing that was interesting is how the creation story was prominent in the whole narrative and affected everything that happened in the movie. You want to say something about the origins aspect?
Well, just that the actual character, although she's DC, actually was conceived in its DC form by a modern psychologist, of all things, who himself had some moral problems.
So people are commenting live. They can comment live while we're watching.
That's really wild.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing was the movie had a lot of analysis on human nature, and some of it was right. Not 100%. It's not biblical anthropology, but it wasn't Pollyannish either necessarily. And so it talked about a corruption of man from an initial state of paradise, basically, and an attempt to sort of have a savior, although the savior in this case was sort of a savior race in a sense. But they weren't really successful ultimately, the Amazonians. But there was a clear admission of the predilection and predisposition for man to war and to fight and to hate and to be jealous and envious and to be violent. And so what do you think about the biblical or the anthropology of Wonder Woman?
One of the things I like, though, is that they didn't paint man wholly as unredeemable. Right. So they were more than just. They were capable of being more, as if the image of God was still there, even though it was corrupted, it was tainted, which we'd call depravity.
Right. And then I don't know if there was... I don't think there was any I think there might have been some mild symbolism in the movie. So there is a scene where there's a sniper in the church and she destroys the church. I don't think that was necessarily symbolic. The church is just the highest place in town. But right before she, spoiler alert, defeats Ares, the god of war, it did seem like she did the old cruciform pose. Did you notice that? Arms out to the side?
Yeah, I did notice that, which was interesting. And although we don't want to take love as love in the sentimental sort of view, if you view it in terms of the love of God, divine love really is the only solution to our problem.
Yeah, so their understanding of love was not fleshed out in the movie, and you can kind of basically almost make your own understanding of love. But the refrain of sort of the answer is love, or that's what you believe in, or that's the answer, that in and of itself is true, but we would have to theologically fill in the definition of love from like 1 John 4:10.
Yeah.
God is love. Or what kind of love is this, also from 1 John, that he would lay down his life, for us. Or where you get Christ talking about true love lays down, and you get in Romans where it says that while we were yet his enemies, sinners, he laid down his life for us. And so we'd have to fill in the blanks of that, but the general sentiment is basically true.
Yeah, and the difference, of course, is that she wins. Christ actually experienced extreme loss. So she doesn't really lose, but she comes to an understanding of human nature, which is her innocence as far as what human beings or what man is like is ruptured. And the line I love is, they do deserve it, but...
Oh yeah, so that's probably the most interesting thing about the whole movie, is there's a repeated refrain. It's a main theme that, yes, the humans do deserve extinction, basically, because Ares' point is that look at how awful they are, all of them, in every single way, and they deserve death. They deserve the destruction they bring upon themselves. They deserve the fruit of their labors. And so that's a biblical message. So it's a one-sided God, Ares, in that there's only the wrath, only the judgment. Now, Ares himself isn't holy, so the God situation is different, of course. He's not holy and perfect and complete in of himself. But his basic point of, look at them, they deserve this. The movie basically acknowledged, yes, mankind deserves the wrath and destruction. And there was kind of like a big but in there, and that's where the sort of principle of love came in. So, I mean, how do you want to talk about that as far as
the way I look at it is Ares is almost acting as the accuser.
Yeah,
almost
yeah, like
satanically.
Satan, yeah.
Here they are. Look at them.
Yeah.
Look at how evil they are. They deserve the wrath. And the point that I saw with grace is they may deserve it, but. And see, grace is the but.
Yeah. Yeah, and on just we're just kind of doing a theological, philosophical quick review, but just on a sort of movie art level. Hey, that movie was really good, I would say. I was never necessarily a giant Wonder Woman fan, but this is definitely better than the Batman Superman mess, and had a lot of redeeming things about it. Someone's asking, they deserve it, but what? What are we saying the but is?
The but is, but they're redeemable. But they're not going to get it. I'm going to show mercy.
Right, so the idea is Ares wanted Wonder Woman to come join him in his crusade to wipe out the humans, basically, through war and bringing violence upon them and letting them reap, again, like I mentioned earlier, the fruit of their own labor, reap what they sow. But Wonder Woman's premise is that this isn't all spelled out exactly like this, okay? But basically that there's some mercy there. Maybe they don't deserve it. One of the main characters says maybe we don't deserve it. So we're not saying it's fully theologically fleshed out. And it seems like they are making the mercy sort of partially, not just based upon the mercy of the superior, but they're also making it based upon the idea that, well, some people are good. That's what it seems like. Now, that's not really biblical anthropology. The Bible's not saying, since there's some good people, we won't kill them or anything like that, or we'll withhold judgment because there's some good ones. So we're not saying it's a full biblical anthropology. But the movie's a primary theme is sort of a study in anthropology, and they do get some things right, is the point. The reason we get grace is because of God's own love and His own graciousness and His own desire to love that way, not because of something we deserve. And that's all throughout Romans, for example. Comment on that.
And the other side of it, too, is that God doesn't go ahead and deliberately arm people to destroy themselves like Ares did. He permits man to do evil, but He doesn't entice to sin. God tempts no man, James tells us, but man himself is tempted when he's carried away by his own lust. Ares is an instigator of evil.
Right, so there's, again, where he's sort of a satanic figure and that as well. But James even says, why do you have fights and wars and all that? It's because your own desire. You want things you can't have and all that. And so that's also from James. All right, we're going to see if there's a final. All right, we're going to end this because it looks like here's a final credit thing. Is there anything? Oh, nope, there's nothing after it. So there's nothing, by the way, so just so you know now, there's nothing after Wonder Woman. When it ends, it ends. But that's our brief theological analysis. You guys have fun. Peace.